what is carnal embrace?
Carnal embrace is the practice of throwing one's arms around a side of beef.
Is that all?
No, a shoulder of mutton, a haunch of venison, well hugged, an embrace of grouse. Caro carnis, feminine flesh.
Oh, is it a sin?
Not necessarily, my lady, but when carnal embrace is sinful, it is a sin of the flesh, QED. We had car in our Gallic wars. The Britons live on milk and meat. Latte et carne vivant. Sorry, the seed fell on stony ground.
That was a sin of omen, wasn't it, Septimus?
Yes, he was giving his brother's wife a Latin lesson, and she was hardly the wiser after it than before. I thought you were finding a proof to Fermat's last theorem.
It is very difficult, Septimus. You will have to show me how.
If I knew how, there would be no need to ask you. Fermat's last theorem has kept people busy for 150 years, and I hoped it would keep you busy long enough for me to read Mr. Chater's poem in praise of love with only the distraction of its own absurdities.
Our Mr. Chater has written a poem.
He believes he has written a poem, yes. But I can see how there might be more carnality in your algebra than in Mr. Chater's couch of errors.
Oh, it was not my algebra. I heard Jellyby telling Cook that Mrs. Chater was discovered in the gazebo in carnal embrace.
Really? With whom did Jellyby happen to say?
What do you mean with whom?
With what? Exactly so. The idea is absurd. Where did the story come from?
Mr. Noakes.
Mr. Noakes.
Papa's landscape gardener. He was taking Byron's in the garden when he saw through his spyglass Mrs. Chater in the gazebo in carnal embrace.
And you mean to tell me that Mr. Noakes told the butler?
No. Mr. Noakes told Mr. Chater. Jellyby heard it from the groom who overheard Mr. Noakes telling Mr. Chater in the stable yard.
Mr. Chater being engaged in closing the stable door.
What do you mean, Septimus?
So, thus far, the only people that know about this are Mr. Noakes, the landscape gardener, the groom, the butler, the cook, and now, of course, Mrs. Chater's husband, the poet.
And Arthur, who's cleaning the silver, and the boot boy, and now you.
Of course. What else did he say?
Mr. Noakes?
No, not Mr. Noakes. Jellyby. You heard Jellyby telling the cook?
Cook hushed him almost as soon as he started. Jellyby did not see that I was being allowed to finish yesterday's upstairs rabbit pie before my lesson. I do not think that you have been entirely candid with me, Septimus. A gazebo is not, after all, a meat larder.
I never said my definition was complete.
Is carnal embrace kissing?
Yes.
And throwing one's arms around Mrs. Chater?
Yes, now come on, last thing.
I thought as much. I hope you're ashamed.
I, my lady?
If you do not teach me the true meaning of things, who will?
Ah, yes, I am ashamed. Carnal embrace is sexual congress, which is the insertion of the male genital organ into the female genital organ for purposes of procreation and pleasure. Fermat's last theorem, by contrast, shows that when x, y, and z are whole numbers, each raised to a power of n, the sum of the first two can never equal the third when n is greater than 2.
Oh!
Nevertheless, that is the theorem.
God, that is disgusting and incomprehensible. Look, now when I am going to practice it myself, I shall never do so without thinking of you.
Thank you very much, my lady. Was Mrs. Chater down this morning?
No. Tell me more about sexual congress.
There's nothing more to be said about sexual congress.
Is it the same as love?
Oh, no, it is much nicer than that. I'm teaching Jellyby.
Beg your pardon, Mr. Hodge. Mr. Chater said it was urgent you receive the letter.
Very well. Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Chater asked me to bring him your answer.
My answer. Well, as is my custom and my duty to his lordship, I am to be engaged in the education of his daughter until 11:45. When I am done, and if Mr. Chater is still there, I will be happy to wait upon him in the gun room.
I will tell him so. Thank you, sir.
Oh, Jellyby, what is for dinner?
Boiled ham and cabbages, my lady. And a rice pudding.
Oh, goody.
Well, so much for Mr. Noakes. He puts himself forward as a gentleman, a philosopher of the picturesque, a visionary that can move mountains and cause lakes. But in the scheme of the garden, he is as the serpent.
When you stir your rice pudding, Septimus, the spoonful of jam spreads itself round, making red trails, like the meteor in my astronomical atlas. But when you stir backwards, the jam does not come together again. Indeed, the pudding does not notice and continues to turn pink, just as before. Do you think this is odd?
No,
I do. You cannot stir things apart.
no more you can. Time must needs run backward, and since it will not, We must continue to stir our way onward, mixing as we go, disorder out of disorder into disorder until pink is complete, unchanging and unchangeable, and we are done with it forever. This is known as free will or self-determination.
Septimus, do you think God is an Etonian?
An Etonian? Oh, most certainly, I'm afraid. You must ask your brother to make his first enquiry.
No, Septimus, an Etonian. Septimus, am I the first person to have thought of this?
No.
I have not said yet.
It's everything from the furthest planet to the smallest atom in our brain acts according to Newton's law of motion. What becomes of free will?
No.
God's will.
No.
Sin.
No.
Very well.
If you could stop every atom in its position and direction, and if your mind could comprehend all of these actions thus suspended, then if you were really, really good at algebra, then you could come up with a formula for all the future. And although nobody could be so clever as to do it, that formula must exist as if one could.
Yes. Yes, as far as I know, you are the first person to have thought of this. In the margin of his copy of Arithmetica, Fermat wrote that he had discovered a wonderful proof to his theorem, but the margin being too narrow for his purpose did not have room to write it down. The note was discovered after his death, and from that
I
date
see now. The answer is perfectly obvious.
This time you may have overreached yourself. Ah, Mr. Chater, perhaps my message miscarried. I will be at liberty at 11:45 if it is convenient.
It is not convenient, sir. My business will not wait.
Then I assume you have the opinion of Lord Croom that your business is more important than his daughter's lesson.
I do not, but if you would like, I shall ask his lordship to settle the point.
My lady, take Fermat into the music room. There will be an extra spoonful of jam if you can find his proof.
Oh, there is no proof, Septimus. The thing that is perfectly obvious is the note in the margin was a joke to make you all mad.
Now, sir, what is this business that cannot wait?
I think you know it, sir. You have insulted my wife.
Insulted her? That would deny my nature, my conduct, and the very admiration in which I hold Mrs. Chater.
I have heard of your admiration, sir. You insulted my wife in the gazebo yesterday evening.
You are mistaken. I made love to your wife in the gazebo yesterday. She asked me to meet her there. I have her note somewhere. I dare say I can find it for you. And if someone is putting it about that I did not show up, by God, sir, it is a slander.
You damned lecher. You would drag down a lady's reputation to make a refuge for your cowardice. It will not do. I am calling you out.
Chater, my dear friend.
You dare to call me that? I demand satisfaction.
Mrs. Chater demanded satisfaction. And now you are demanding satisfaction. I cannot spend my time day and night satisfying the demands of the Chater family. And as for your wife's reputation, it stands where it ever stood.
You blackguard.
I assure you, Mrs. Chater is charming and spirited with her pleasing voice and dainty step. She is the epitome of all the qualities society applauds in her sex. But her chief renown is for a readiness that keeps her in a state of tropical humidity as would grow orchids in her drawers in January.
Damn you, Hodge, I will not listen to this. Will you fight or not?
There are no more than 2 or 3 poets of the first rank still living. And I will not shoot one of them dead over a perpendicular poke in a gazebo with a woman whose reputation could not be adequately defended by a platoon of musketry deployed by Rota.
Ha! You say so. Who are the others, in your opinion? No, this goes very ill, Hodge. I will not be flattered out of my course. You say so, do you?
I do. And I would say the same to Milton were he not already dead. Not the part about his wife, of course.
Yeah, but among the living, Mr. Southey.
Southey would have shot on sight.
Huh. Yes, he has fallen off. I admire Oliver quite, but Maddock. Dear me. But we are straying from the business here, Hodge. You took advantage of Mrs. Chater, and if that were not bad enough, it appears now that every stable boy and scullery maid on the street...
Have you not heard a word I said?
I have heard you, sir, and I will not deny I welcome your regard. God knows one is little appreciated if one stands outside the coterie of hats and placemen that surround Geoffrey and the Edinburgh.
My dear Chater, they judge a poet by the seating plan at Lord Paulin's table.
By heaven, you are right. And I should very much like to know the name of the scoundrel who slandered my verse drama, The Maid of Turkey, in the Piccadilly Recreation, too.
The Maid of Turkey? I have it by my bedside. When I cannot sleep, I take up the Maid of Turkey like an old friend.
Well, there you are. And the scoundrel wrote that he would not feed it to his dog for dinner were it covered with bread sauce and stuffed with chestnuts. When Mrs. Chater read that, she wept, sir, and would not give herself to me for a fortnight. Which recalls me to my purpose!
The new poem, however, will make your name perpetual.
Whether it do or not.
It is not a question, sir. No coterie can oppose the acclamation of the reading public. The Count of Eros will take the town.
Is that your estimation?
It is my intent.
Is it? Well. I do not understand.
You see, I have an early copy sent to me for review. I say review, but I speak of an extensive appreciation of your gifts and your rightful place in English literature.
Well, I must say, that is certainly, you have written it.
Not yet.
Ah. And how long does...
To be done right, it first requires a careful rereading of your book, of both your books, several readings, together with outline works for an exhibition of deference or disdain, as the case merits. I make notes, of course, I order my thoughts, and finally, when all is ready and I am calm in my mind...
Did Mrs. Chater know of this before you...
I think she very likely did.
There is nothing the woman would not do for me. Now you have an insight to her character. Yes, by God, she is a wife to me, sir.
For that reason alone, I would not make her a widow.
Captain Bryce once made the same observation.
Captain Bryce did.
Mr. Hodge, allow me to inscribe your copy in happy anticipation. Lady Thomasina's pen will serve us.
The relationship with the Lord and Lady Crew you owe to your fighting her ladyship's brother.
No, it was all nonsense, sir. A canard. What a fortunate mistake, sir. It brought me the patronage of a captain of His Majesty's Navy and the brother of a countess. I do not think Mr. Walter Scott can say as much. And here I am, a respected guest at Sidley Park.
Well, sir, you can say you have received satisfaction. Oh! Mr. Noakes, my muddy-meddled rascal, where's your spyglass?
I beg your leave. I thought your ladyship... Excuse me.
To my friend, Septimus Hodge, who stood up and gave his best on behalf of the author, Ezra Chater, at Sidley Park, Derbyshire, April 10th, 1809. There, sir. Something to show your grandchildren.
This is handsome. This is more than I deserve. What say you, Noakes?
No, not the gazebo! Mr. Noakes, what is this I hear?
Not only the gazebo, but the boathouse, the Chinese bridge, and the shrubbery.
By God, sir, not possible.
Mr. Noakes will have it served.
Mr. Noakes, this is monstrous!
I'm glad to hear it from you, Mr. Hall.
May I return now?
Not just yet.
Yes, let us stay. A lesson in folly is worth two in wisdom.
Is Sidley Park to be an Englishman's garden, or the haunt of Corsican brigands?
Let us not hyperbolize, sir.
It is rape, sir.
It is the modern style. It is regrettable, of course, but so it is.
Mr. Chater, you show too much submission. Mr. Hodge, I appeal to you.
Madam, I regret the gazebo. I sincerely regret the gazebo and the boathouse up to a point. But the Chinese bridge fantasy and the shrubbery I reject with contempt. Mr. Chater, how do you take the word of some jumped-up, jobbling gardener who sees carnal embrace in every nook and cranny of the landscape?
They are not speaking of carnal embrace, Septimus, are you, Mamma?
Certainly not. Oh, what do you know of carnal embrace?
Oh, everything thanks to Septimus. In my opinion, Mr. Noakes' scheme for the garden is perfect. It is a Salvatore.
What does she mean?
Salvatore Rossi, your ladyship, the painter. He is indeed the very exemplar of the picturesque style.
Hodge, what is this?
She speaks from innocence, not from experience.
You call this innocence? Has he ruined you, child?
Answer your uncle.
How is a ruined child different from a ruined castle?
On such questions, I defer to Mr. Noakes.
A ruined castle is picturesque, certainly.
That is the main difference. I teach the classical authors. If I cannot elucidate their meaning, who will?
As a tutor, you have a duty to keep her in ignorance.
Do not devil and paradox, Edward. It puts you in danger of fortuitous wit. Thomasina, wait in your bedroom.
Yes, Mamma. I did not intend to get you into trouble, Septimus. I am very sorry for it. It is plain there are some things a girl is allowed to understand, and these include the whole of algebra. But there are others, such as embracing a side of beef, that must be kept from her until she is old enough to have a carcass of her own.
a moment.
What is she talking about?
Meat.
Meat?
Thomasina, you had better remain. Your knowledge of the picturesque obviously exceeds anything the rest of us can offer. Mr. Hodge, ignorance should be like an empty vessel waiting to be filled at the well of truth, not a cabinet of vulgar curios. Mr. Nix, now at last it is your turn.
Thank you, your ladyship.
Your drawing is a very wonderful transformation. I would not have recognized my own garden if not for your ingenious book, is it not? Look, here is the part that appears to us now, and here, as it might be when Mr. Noakes is done with it, where there is the familiar pastoral refinement of an Englishman's garden, here is an eruption of gloomy forest and tower and crag, of ruins where there was never a house, of water dashing against rocks where there was neither spring nor stone I could not throw the length of a cricket pitch. My hyacinth dell is become a haunt for hobgoblins. My Chinese bridge, which I'm assured is superior to the one at Kew, and for all I know at Peking, is usurped by a fallen obelisk overgrown with briars.
But Lord Little has one very
I
similar.
cannot relieve Lord Little's misfortunes by adding to my own. Pray, what is this rustic hovel which presumes to superimpose itself on my gazebo?
That is the hermitage, madam.
The Hermitage. I'm bewildered.
It is all irregular, Mr. Noakes.
Yes, it is, sir. Irregularity is one of the chiefest principles of the picturesque style.
But Sidney Park is already a picture, and a most amiable picture too. The slopes are green and gentle, the trees are companionably grouped at intervals that show them to advantage. The rill is a serpentine ribbon unwound from the lakes, peaceably contained by meadows on which the right amount of sheep are tastefully arranged. In short, it is nature as God intended. And I can say with the painter, et in Arcadia ego. Here I am in Arcadia, Thomasina.
Yes, Mamma, if you would have it so.
Is she correcting my taste or my translation?
Oh, neither are beyond correction, Mamma, but it was your geography that caused the doubt.
Something has occurred with the girl since I saw her last. Surely that was yesterday. How old are you this morning?
13 years and 10 months, Mamma.
13 years and 10 months. She's not due to be pert for 6 months at the earliest, or to have notions of taste for much longer. Mr. Hodge, I hold you accountable. Mr. Noakes, back to you.
Oh, thank you, your
You
ladyship.
have been reading too many novels by Mrs. Radcliffe. That is my opinion. This is a garden for the Castle of Otranto, or the Mysteries of Udolpho.
The Castle of Otranto, my lady, is by Horace Walpole.
Oh, Mr. Walpole, the gardener.
Mr. Chater, you are a welcome guest at Sidley Park, but while you are one, the Castle of Otranto was written by whomsoever I say it was. Otherwise, what is the point of being a guest, or having one? The guns have reached the brow. I will speak to his lordship on the subject, and we will see by and by. Oh, your friend has got down a pigeon, Mr. Hodge. Bravo, sir!
The pigeon, I am sure, bells your ladyship's husband or your son. My school friend was never a sportsman. Yes, to Augustus.
Bravo, lad!
Well, come along. Where are my troops?
My dear Mr. Hodge.
Pop, pop, pop. I've grown up with the sound of guns like the child of a siege. I pigeons and rooks in the close season, and grouse on the heights from August with pheasants to follow. I've partridge and snipes, woodcock and teal, pop, 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 and the cunning of the herd. Papa has no need for the recording angel. His life is written in the game books.
Calendar of slaughter. Even in Arcadia, there am I.
Fooey today. I will put in a hermit. For what is a hermitage without a hermit? Are you in love with my mother, Septimus?
You must not be cleverer than your elders. It is not polite.
Am I cleverer?
Yes, much.
Well, I'm sorry, Septimus. Oh, Mrs. Chayton came into the music room with a note for you. She said it was of scant importance, and therefore I should deliver it to you with the utmost safety, urgency, and secrecy. Does Carnal embrace sadly brave?
Invariably. That is enough education for today.
There, I have made him like the Baptist in the wilderness.
How picturesque.
Thomasina!
the French window.
Yes, hang on.
Sod.
The best thing is you wait here, save you tromping around. She spends a good deal of time in the garden, as you may imagine.
Yes. Why?
But she's writing a history of the garden, didn't you know?
No, I knew she was working on the Croom papers.
Well, it's not exactly a history of the garden either. I'll let Hannah explain it. The trench you nearly drove into is all to do with it. I was going to say make yourself comfortable, but that's hardly possible. Everything's been cleared out. It's en route to the nearest lavatory.
Everything is.
No, this room is. They drew the line of chemical ladies.
Yes, I see. Did you say Hannah?
Hannah, yes. Will you be all right? I won't be Mr. Nightingale.
Yes, thank you. Miss Jarvis is Hannah Jarvis, the author.
Yes, have you read her book?
Oh, yes, yes.
I bet she's in the Hermitage. I can't see from here in the marquee.
Are you having a garden party?
A dance for the district. Our annual dressing up and general drunkenness. The Wrinkleys won't have it in the house. There was a teapot we once had a bag back from Christie's in the nick of time. So anything that could be destroyed, stolen, or vomited on has been tactfully removed. Tactlessly, I should say.
Listen, would you tell her? Would you mind not mentioning my name just yet?
Oh, all right.
More fun to surprise her. Would you mind?
No, but she's bound to ask. Should I give you another name just for the moment?
Yes, why not?
Perhaps another bird. You're not really a nightingale.
Hello?
Sod. Sod, sod, sod. Chloe! Chloe! Chloe!
She's in the garden looking for Miss Jarvis.
Where is everything?
It's been removed to the...
The dance is on a tent, isn't it?
Yes, but this is the way to the nearest toilet.
Ah, I need the commode.
Can't you use the toilet?
It's got all the game books in it.
I see. The toilet has and the commode has.
Is anyone looking after you?
Yes, thank you. I'm Bernard, and I've come to speak with Miss Jarvis. I wrote Lord Croom a letter, but unfortunately I didn't...
Did you type it?
Type it?
Was your letter typewritten?
Yes.
Well, my father never replies to typewritten letters. Oh, where have you been hiding, Lightning?
So I telephoned yesterday, and I think I spoke to you.
To me? Ah, yes. Sorry, you're doing a talk about someone and you wanted to ask Hannah something?
Yes. As it turns out, I'm hoping Miss Jarvis will look kindly on me.
I doubt it.
You know about research.
I know Hannah.
Has she been here long?
Well, in possession, I'm afraid. My mother's read her book, you see. Have you?
No. Yes, her book, indeed.
She's terrifically pleased with herself.
I dare say, if I wrote a bestseller...
No, for reading it. My mother basically reads gardening books.
Well, she must be delighted to have Miss Jarvis writing a book about her garden.
Actually, it's about hermits. It's all right, Gus. What do you want?
You know, we've actually met before a few years ago at a seminar at Sussex.
Oh, was I there?
Oh, yes, sir. A colleague of mine believed he had discovered an unattributed short story by D.H. Lawrence. He analysed it on his home computer, and it was interesting. Perhaps you remember the paper.
Not really, but I often sit with my eyes closed. It doesn't necessarily mean I'm awake.
By comparing sentence structure and so forth, this chap was able to show that there was a 90% chance that the person who wrote this book was the same person who wrote Woman in Love. Much to my inexpressible joy, one of your maths mob was able to show by the same statistical basis that there was also a 90% chance that Lawrence wrote the Just Williams books and much of the previous days Brighton and Home Argus.
Oh, Brighton. Yes, I was there. Oh, here she comes. I'll leave you two to talk. By the way, is yours the red Mazda?
Yes.
If you want a tip, I'd park it down beside through the stable arch before my father gets in. He won't have anyone in the house with a Japanese car. Are you queer?
No, actually.
Well, even so.
Mr. Peacock?
Hello? Oh, hello, Miss Jarvis. Such a pleasure. Sorry, I was thrown for a moment. The photograph, it doesn't do you justice.
Photograph?
In the book. I'm sorry to have you brought indoors, but Lady Chloe kindly insisted...
No matter, you would have muddied your shoes.
Thoughtful. Kind of you to lend me a little of your time.
Are you a journalist?
No!
I've been in the ha-ha, very squelching.
Ha-ha!
What?
A theory of mine. Ha-ha, not ha-ha. See, if you were strolling down your garden, and all of a sudden the ground were to give way beneath your feet, you're not going to go ha-ha. You're going to jump back and go, ha-ha! Or probably bloody hell, though I think old Murray was a bit of the pull on that one. In France, you know, ha-ha is used to denote a strikingly ugly woman, a much more likely bet for something to keep the cows off the lawn.
Mr. Peacock, what can I do for you?
Well, to begin with, you can call me Bernard, which is my name.
Thank you.
The book is a revelation. To see Caroline Lamb through your eyes, it's really like seeing her for the first time. I'm ashamed to admit I haven't read her fiction, but how right you are, it's extraordinary stuff. Early 19th is my period, as much as anything is.
You teach?
Yes, and write like you, like we all, though I've never written anything that's sold like horror.
I don't teach.
No, and all the more credit to you to rehabilitate a forgotten writer. I suppose that is the main purpose of an English Don.
Not to teach.
Oh, good God, no, let the little brats sort it out for themselves. Anyway, many congratulations. I expect you'll be bringing Caroline Lamb's oeuvre now.
Yes, I expect so.
Bravo, how wonderful. Simply as a document shedding reflective light on the character of Lord Byron.
Bernard. You did say Bernard, didn't you?
I did.
I'm putting my shoes on again.
Oh, but you're not going to go out.
No, I'm going to kick you in the balls.
Right. Point taken. Ezra Chaytor.
Ezra Chaytor.
Born Twickenham, Middlesex, 1778, author of two verse narratives, The Maid of Turkey, 1808, and The Couch of Eros, 1809. About after 1809, he disappears from view.
I see, and?
There is a Sidley Park connection. To my friend Septimus Hodge, who stood up and gave his best on behalf of the author, Ezra Chaytor, at Sidley Park, Derbyshire, April 10th, 1809. I am in your hands.
The Couch of Eros, is it any good?
It's quite surprising.
Do you think there's a book in it?
There were perhaps a monograph in the Journal of English Studies, and there's nothing at all on Chaytor, not a mention in the DNB, of course. By this time, he'd been completely forgotten.
Family?
Zilch. And there was only one other Chaytor in the British Library database.
Same period.
Yes, but he wasn't a poet like our Ezra. He was a botanist who described a dwarf dahlia in Martinique and died there after being bitten by a monkey.
And Ezra Chaytor.
He gets two references in the periodical index, one for both books, and in both cases a substantial review in the Piccadilly Recreation, a thrice-weekly folio sheet, but giving no personal details.
And where was this?
Our private collection. I have to go to London next week for a talk, and this Chaytor was interesting, so anything on him, or this Septimus Hodge, or Sidley Park, any leads at all, I'd be most grateful.
Oh, this is a new experience for me, a groveling academic.
Oh, I say.
Oh, but it is. All the academics who reviewed my book patronized it.
Surely not.
Surely, yes. The Byron gang unzipped their flies and patronized all over it. Where is it you don't bother to teach, by the way?
Well, Sussex, actually.
Sussex. Nightingale. Yes, 1,000 words in the Observer to see me off the premises with a pat on the bottom. You must know him.
As I say, I am in your hands.
Quite. Say please, then.
Please.
Sit down, do.
Thank you.
How'd you know I was here?
I didn't. I spoke to the son on the phone, but he didn't mention your name. And then you forgot to mention me.
Valentine. He's at Oxford, technically.
Yes, I met him. Bride's head regurgitated.
My fiancé.
I'll take a chance. You're lying.
Well done, then.
Christ.
He calls me his fiancé.
Why?
It's a joke.
You turned him down.
Don't be silly. Do I look like the next countess?
No, a freebie. The joke that consoles my tortoise lightning, my fiancée, Hannah.
Oh. Yes. You have a way with you, Bernard. I'm not sure I like it.
What's he doing, Valentine?
He's a postgrad, biology.
No, he's a mathematician.
Well, he's doing grouse.
Grouse.
Not actual grouse, computer grouse.
And who's the one that doesn't speak?
Gus.
Yes, what's the matter with him?
I didn't ask.
And the father, he seems like a lot of fun.
Oh, yes.
And the mother's a gardener? What's going on here?
What do you mean?
Well, I nearly took her head off. She was in a trench at the time.
Archaeology. Their house had a formal Italian garden until about 1740. Lady Croom's interested in garden history. I sent her a copy of my book. It contains, as you know if you've read it, which I'm not assuming, by the way,
A rather good description of Caroline's garden at Rocket Hall. I'm here now helping Hermione.
Hermione?
The records are unusually complete and they've never been gone through.
I'm beginning to admire you.
Before was bullshit.
Completely. The photograph does you justice, I'm not sure the book does.
Septimus Hodge was the tutor. The pupil was the croon daughter. They had a son at Eton. Septimus lived in the house. The paybook specifies allowances for wine and candles, so not quite a guest, rather more than a steward. His letter of self-recommendation is buried among the papers somewhere. I'll have it dug out for you. As far as I remember, he studied mathematics and natural philosophy at Cambridge, so a scientist as much as anything.
Thank you. I'm impressed. And Chater?
Nothing.
Nothing at all?
I'm afraid not.
How about the library?
The catalogue was done in the 1880s. I've been through the lot.
Books or catalogue?
Catalogue.
Ah, pity.
I'm sorry.
And what about the letters? No mention?
No, I've been very thorough in your period, because of course it's my period too.
It is. I'm not actually sure what it is.
The Sidley Hermit.
Ah, yeah. Who's he?
He's my peg for the nervous breakdown of the romantic imagination. I'm doing landscape and literature, 1750 to 1834.
What happened in 1834?
My hermit died.
Of course.
What do you mean, of course?
Nothing.
Yes, you do.
No. However, Coleridge also died in 1834.
So he did. What a stroke of luck. Thank you, Bernard. Look, here he is. The only known likeness of the Sidley Hermit.
Very biblical.
Drawn in by a later hand, of course. The hermitage didn't yet exist when those did the drawings.
Notes the painter.
Landscape garden. He did these books for his clients as a sort of prospectus before and after, you see? This is how everything looked until about 1810. Smooth, undulating, serpentine, open water, clumps of trees, classical English boathouse.
Lovely, the real England.
You can stop being silly now, Bernard. English landscape was invented by gardeners who were imitating foreign painters who were evoking classic authors. The whole thing was brought home in the luggage from the Grand Tour by Capability Brown. Look, Brown, doing Claude, who was doing Virgil. Arcadia, and here, superimposed by Richard Noakes, untamed nature in the style of Salvator Rosa. It's the Gothic novel expressed in landscape, everything except the vampires. There's an account of my hermit in a letter by your illustrious namesake.
Florence.
What?
No, you go on.
Thomas Love Peacock.
Yes, that's right.
I read him an essay on hermits and anchorites in the Carnal magazine, 1862. Peacock called him not one of your village simpletons to frighten the ladies, but a savant among idiots, a sage of lunacy.
An oxymoron, so to speak.
Yes, what?
Nothing.
Here it is. A letter we have received from the editor of Headlong Hall nearly 30 years ago, detailing a visit to the Earl of Croom's estate, Sidley Park.
That was the letter to Thackeray.
I don't know. Does it matter?
No, sorry. However, Thackeray edited Cornhill until 63 when, as you know, he died. The father was at the East India Company where Peacock served as examiner, so if the essay were by Thackeray, it's quite possible that the letter... Sorry, go on. Only the East India Library in Blackfriars has most of Peacock's letters, so it'd be quite easy to... I'm sorry, can I look?
Yes, it's been topped and tailed, of course. What might be worth a... Go on, I'm listening. It's a Thackeray, all right. Unbearable.
What were you saying?
Are you always like this?
Like what?
The point, of course, is that the Crooms had the hermit under their noses for 20 years and hardly thought him worth remarking, as I'm finding out. The Peacock letter is still the main source, unfortunately, but when I read this, it was one of those moments that tells you what your next book is going to be. The Sidley Hermit was my epiphany.
Epiphany, that's
The hermit was placed in the garden exactly as one might place a pottery gnome, and there he lived out the rest of his days as a garden ornament.
Did he do anything?
Oh, he was very busy. When he died, they found the cottage sack solid with paper, hundreds of pages, thousands. Peacock said he was suspected of genius. It turns out, of course, he was off his head. He covered every sheet with Kabbalistic proofs that the world was coming to an end. It's perfect, isn't it? The perfect symbol, I mean.
Yes. What?
The whole romantic sham, Bernard. It's what happened to the Enlightenment, isn't it? A century of intellectual rigor turned in on itself. A mind in chaos, suspected of genius, in a setting of cheap thrills and false emotion. There's an engraving of Sidley Park in 1740 that makes you want to weep. Paradise in the age of reason. By 1760 it was gone. Pools, topiaries, terraces, fountains, an avenue of limes, the whole sublime geometry plowed under by Capability Brown. The grass went from the doorstep to the horizon, and the best box hedge in Derbyshire was dug up for the ha-ha, so that the fools could pretend they were living in God's countryside. And then Noakes came in to bring God up to date, and by the end, it looked like this. The decline from thinking to feeling, you see?
That's awfully good. No, that'll stand up, though personally I like the ha-ha. Do you like hedges?
I don't like sentimentality.
Yes, I see. Are you sure? You seem quite sentimental over geometry. But the hermit is very, very good, the genius of the place.
That's my title.
Of course.
Of course.
Of course. Who was he when he wasn't being a symbol?
I don't know. I mean, yet.
Absolutely. What did they do with all the papers, does Peacock say?
Made a bonfire. I still have Lady Crume's garden books to go through. They're gappy, but they span the period.
Account books or journals?
A bit of both. They're gappy, but they do the work for me.
Really? Have you come across Byron at all, as a matter of interest?
First edition of Childe Harold and English Bards, I think.
Inscribed?
No.
And he doesn't pop up in the letters at all?
Why should he? The Crumes don't pop up in his.
Well, that's true, of course, but Newstead isn't so far away. Would you mind terribly if I poked around a bit? Just in the papers you're done with, of course.
Are you looking into Byron or Chater?
Sorry, just cutting through. There's tea in the pantry if you don't mind mugs.
How kind.
Hannah will show you.
Let me help you.
No, it's all right. I've been saving Val's game books. Thanks.
Sweet girl.
Oh, really? Oh, really what?
Meant to say, don't worry if Father makes remarks about your car, Mr. Nightingale. He's got a thing about... how's a surprise? Not yet, eh? Oh well, sorry. Tea anyway. So sorry if I...
You absolute shit!
Only the thing is, there is a Byron connection, too.
I don't care!
You should! The Byron gang's going to get their dicks caught in their zip.
Really?
If we collaborate.
On what?
Sit down, I'll tell you.
I'll stand for the moment.
This copy of the Couch of Eros belongs to Lord Byron.
It belonged to Septimus Hodge.
Originally, yes, but it was in Byron's library, which was sold off when he left England for good in 1816. The sales catalogue is in the British Library. Eros was lot 74A and was bought by the bookseller and publisher John Nightingale of Opera Court, Pall Mall, whose name lives on in the firm of Matlock and Nightingale, the present Nightingale being my cousin. I'll just give headlines. 1939, Stock removed to the Nightingale Country House in Kent. 1945, Stock returned to bookshop. Meanwhile, overlooked box of 18th century books languish in the country house cellar until it is sold to make way for the Channel Tunnel rail link. Eros is discovered with sales receipt from 1816 attached. A photocopy available for inspection.
All right, it was in Byron's library.
A number of passages have been underlined. All of them, and only them.
No, look at me, not at the book. All of them were used, word for word, as quotations in the Piccadilly Recreations Review of the Couch of Eros. The reviewer begins by drawing attention to his previous notice of the Maid of Turkey in the same periodical.
The reviewer was obviously Hodge, my friend Septimus Hodge, who gave his best on behalf of the author.
But that's the point. The Piccadilly ridiculed both books.
Do the reviews read like Byron?
They read a damn sight more like Byron than his review of Wordsworth the previous year.
Well, I see. Congratulations, possibly, to previously unknown reviews by the young Byron. Is that it?
No, because of the tapes, 3 documents have survived undisturbed in the pages of the book. Sir, we have a matter to settle. I wait on you in the gun room. E. Chater, Esquire. My husband has sent to town for pistols. Deny what cannot be proven for charity's sake. I keep to my room this day, unsigned. Sir, I call you a liar, a lecher, a slanderer in the press, and a thief of my honor. I await your arrangements for giving me satisfaction as a man and a poet. E. Chater, Esquire.
Superb, but inconclusive. The book had 7 years to find its way into Byron's possession. It doesn't connect Byron with Chater or with Sidley Park or with Hodge for that matter. Furthermore, there isn't a single mention in any of Byron's letters, and this sort of scrape is the last thing he would have kept quiet about.
Scrape?
He would have made a comic turn of it.
Comic turn fiddlesticks. Byron killed Chater.
Really?
Chater was 31 years old, the author of 2 books, and nothing is heard of after Arabs. After 1809, he disappears completely. And Byron had just published his satire, English Bards and Scotch Reviewers in March. He was just getting a name. And then he sets sail for Lisbon the second he can find a ship and stays abroad for 2 years. Hannah, this is fame. Somewhere in the crew papers there is something.
There isn't. I've looked.
But you were looking for something else. It is going to jump out at you like, oh, Lord Byron remarked wittily at breakfast.
Nevertheless, his presence is unlikely to have gone unremarked, but there's nothing to suggest that Byron was here, and I don't believe he ever was.
All right, let me have a look.
No, you'll queer my pitch.
Dear girl, I know how to handle myself.
Don't call me dear girl. If I find anything on Byron or Chater or Hodge, I'll pass it on. Nightingale, Sussex.
Thank you. And I'm sorry about the business with my name.
Don't mention it.
What was Hodge's college, by the way?
Trinity.
Trinity.
Yes, Byron's old college.
Contemporaries at Trinity.
Yes, Bernard. And no doubt they were both in the cricket 11 when Harrow played Eton and Lord's.
Do you mean to say that Lord Byron was at school with Septimus Hodge?
Well, yes, he must have been, as a matter of fact.
Well, you silly cow!
Oh! I thought I'd bring it to you.
I have to see about my car.
Going to hide it?
Hide it? I'm going to sell it. Is there a plumber you put up last night in the village? Aren't you glad I'm here?
He said he knew you.
He couldn't have.
No, perhaps not. He said he wanted to be a surprise, but I suppose that's different. I thought there was a lot of sexual energy in there, didn't you?
What?
Bouncing on his feet, you see a sure sign. Should I invite him for you?
To what? No.
You can invite him, that's better. He can come as your partner.
Stop it. Thank you for the tea.
Well, if you don't want him, I'll have him. Is he married?
I haven't the slightest idea. Aren't you supposed to have a pony or something?
I'm just trying to fix you up, Hannah.
Believe me, it gets less important.
I mean for the dancing. He can come as Beau Brummel.
I don't want to dress up, and I don't want a dancing partner, least of all, Mr. Nightingale.
Oh, don't be such a prune. You were kissing him anyway.
He was kissing me, and only out of general enthusiasm.
Well, don't say I didn't give you the first chance. My genius brother would be much relieved. He's in love with you, I suppose you know.
That's a joke.
It's not a joke to him.
Not even a joke. How can you be so ridiculous?
Oh, hello, Gus. What have you got?
Oh, thank you.
Told you.
Thank you. Oh dear.
Why have you stopped?
Solio incessa in igno.
There will be no reply, Jeremy, thank you.
I will
Seated
say
on
so,
a
sir.
throne.
I will have something for the post
Fire.
if you would be so kind.
And
Yes,
also
sir.
on a ship. Sedabatra Regina, Satch the Queen. The wind smelling sweetly. Papareus Velis by with or from purple sails was like as to something by with or from lovers. Septimus! Musica Tiberorum Impravat. Music of the pipes commanded.
Ruled is better.
The silver oars exciting the ocean as if amorous.
That is very good.
Regina reclinabat, the queen was reclining, praete descriptionum, indescribably in a golden tent, like Venus and yet more.
Try to put some poetry into it.
How can I if there's none in the Latin?
Oh, pretty.
Is it Queen Dido?
No.
Who's the poet?
Known to you.
Known to me.
Not a Roman.
Mr. Chater.
Translation is quite like Chater.
I know who it is. It's your friend Byron.
Lord Byron, if you please.
Mamma's in love with Lord Byron.
Yes, nonsense.
It is not nonsense. I saw them together in the gazebo. Lord Byron was reading to her from his satire, and Mamma was laughing, with her head in her best position.
She did not understand the satire and was showing politeness to a guest.
Mamma is vexed with Papa for his determination to alter the park, but that alone cannot account for her politeness to a guest. She was downstairs hours before her custom. Lord Byron was amusing at breakfast. He paid you tribute, Septimus?
Did he?
He said you were a witty fellow. He had almost by heart an article you wrote about I forget what, but it concerned a book called The Maid of Turkey and how you would not give it to your dog for dinner.
Mr. Chater was at breakfast, of course.
He was not like a certain lazybones.
Well, he does not have Latin to sect and mathematics to correct.
Correct. What was incorrect in it? Alpha minus. Who? What is the minus for?
Doing more than was asked.
You did not like my discovery.
Fancy is not a discovery.
Jive is not a rebuttal. You are churlish and weak because Mamma is paying attention to your friend. Now let them alone. They cannot turn back the advancement of knowledge. I think it is an excellent discovery. Each week I plot your equations, dot for dot, x's against y's, in all manner of algebraical relation. And each week they draw themselves as commonplace geometry, as if the world of forms were nothing but arcs and angles, a God's truth, Septimus. If there's an equation for a curve like a bell, there must be an equation for one like a bluebell. And if a bluebell, why not a rose? Do we believe nature is written in numbers?
We do.
Then why do your equations only describe the shapes of manufacture?
I do not know.
Thus God could only make a cabinet.
He has a mastery of equations which lead into infinities where we cannot follow.
What a faint heart. We must work out of it from the middle of the maze. We will start with something simple. I will plot this leaf and deduce its equation, and you will be famous for being my tutor when Lord Byron is dead and forgotten.
Back to Cleopatra.
Is it Cleopatra? Hate Cleopatra.
You hate her. Why?
Everything is turned to love with her. New love, an absent love, lost love. I never knew a heroine to make such noodles of our sex. All it needs is a Roman general to drop anchor outside the window and then away goes the empire, like a christening mug into a pawn shop. You know, if Queen Elizabeth had been a Ptolemy, history would have been quite different. We would be admiring the pyramids of Rome or the great Sphinx of Verona.
God save us.
But instead, the Egyptian noodle made a carnal embrace with the enemy, who burned his great library of Alexandria without so much as a fine for all that is overdue. Septimus, how can we bear it? All the lost plays of the Athenians, 200 at least by Aeschylus, Sophocles, Euripides. Thousands of poems, Aristotle's own library, brought to Egypt by the noodle's ancestors. How can we sleep for Greek?
By counting our stock. 7 plays from Aeschylus, 7 from Sophocles, 19 from Euripides, my lady. You should no more weep for the rest than for a buckle lost from your first shoe, or for your lesson book, which will be lost when you are old. We shed as we pick up, like travelers who must carry everything in their arms. What we let fall will be picked up by those behind. Procession is very long. Life is very short. We die on the march. But there is nothing outside the march, so nothing can be lost to it. The missing plays of Sophocles will turn up again piece by piece, or be written again in another language. Ancient cures for diseases will reveal themselves once more. Mathematical discoveries, glimpsed and lost to view, will have their time again. You do not suppose, my lady, that if all of Archimedes had been hidden away in the great library of Alexandria, that we would be at a loss for a corkscrew? I have no doubt that the improved steam-driven heat engine that puts Mr. Noakes into an ecstasy that he and it and the modern age should all coincide was described on papyrus. Now, where are we? I will attempt a free translation for you. At Harrow, I was better at this than Lord Byron. Yes, let's see. The barge she sat in like a burnished throne burned on the water there. There's something. The poop was beaten gold, purple the sails, and what's this? Oh yes, so perfumed that the winds were lovely with them. The oars were silver, which to the tune of the stroke, and made the waters which they beat to follow faster as amorous of their strokes. For her own person, if bedded all description, she did lie in her pavilion.
I hope you die!
Good God, man, what have you told her?
Told her? Told her what?
Hodge.
Traitor, my dear fellow, don't hang back. Come in, sir.
Captain Bryce does me the honor. I mean to say, sir, whatever it is you have to say to me, sir, address yourself to Captain Bryce.
How peculiar. Your wife was not down this morning. I take it she is not sick.
My wife? I have no wife. What in the devil do you mean, sir?
I do not understand the steam, Traitor. Whom do I address when I would like to speak with Captain Bryce?
Oh, slippery, Hodge. Slippery.
By the way, Traitor, I have some amazing news to tell you. Someone has taken to writing wild and worldly letters in your name. I received one not a half hour ago.
Mr. Hodge, look to your honor, sir. If you cannot attend to me without this foolery, then nominate a second who might settle this business as with gentlemen. No doubt your friend Byron would do you the service.
Oh, yes, he would do me the service. I repent your injury, sir. You are an honest fellow with no more malice in you than poetry.
Ah, well, that is more like the thing. Is he apologizing? There is still the injury to his conjugal property. Mrs. Chaytor touched her, as you will, a touch, nevertheless.
Oh, excellently found! Mr. Chaytor, this will please you very much. Lord Byron begs a copy of your new book. He dies to read it and intends to include your name in the second edition of his English Bards and Scotch Reviewers.
English Bards and Scotch Reviewers, your ladyship, is a doggerel aimed at Lord Byron's seniors and betters. If he intends to include me, he intends to insult me.
Well, of course he does, Mr. Chaytor. Would you rather be thought not worth insulting? You should be proud to be in the company of Rogers and Moore and Wordsworth. Ah, the couch of arrows.
That's my copy, madam.
So much the better. What are a friend's books for if not to be borrowed? Mr. Hodge, you must speak to your friend and put him out of his affection of pretending to quit us. I will not have it. He says he's determined on the Malta Packet sailing out of Bournemouth. His head is full of Lisbon and Lesbos and his portmanteau of pistols, and I have told him it is not to be thought of. The whole of Europe is in a Napoleonic fit. All the best ruins will be closed, the roads entirely occupied by the movement of armies, the lodgings turned to billets, and the fashion for godless republicanism not yet arrived at its natural reversion. He says his aim is poetry. One does not aim at poetry with pistols. At poets, perhaps. I charge you to take command of his pistols, Mr. Hodge. He is not safe with them. His lameness, he confessed to me, is entirely the result of his habit from boyhood of shooting himself in the foot. What is that noise?
That's the new Broadwood pianoforte, madam. Our music lessons are at an early stage.
Well, restrict your lessons to the piano side of the instrument and let her loose on the forte when she has learned something.
Well, if that was not God speaking through Lady Crew, he never spoke to anyone.
Take command of Lord Byron's pistols.
You hear, Mr. Chaytor, sir. How will you answer him?
By killing him. I am tired of him. What? Oh, damn your soul, Traitor! Ovid would have stayed a lawyer and Virgil a farmer if they had known the bathos to which love would descend out of your sportive satyrs and noodled nymphs. I am at your service with a half-ounce ball in your brain. May it satisfy you. Behind the boathouse at daybreak, shall we say 5 o'clock? My compliments to Mrs. Chaytor. Have no fear for her. She will not want for protection as long as Captain Bryce has a guinea in his pocket. He told her so himself.
You lie, sir!
No, sir, Mrs. Chaytor, perhaps.
You lie, or you will answer to me.
Oh, very well. I can fit you in at 5 minutes after 5, and then it's off to the Malta Pocket in Falmouth. You two will be dead. My penurious school friend will remain to tutor Lady Thomasina. And I trust that everybody, including Lady Groom, will be satisfied.
He is all bluster and bladder. Rest assured, Shaker, I will let the air out of him.
Ah!
Captain Bryce!
I, Thomasina Coverley, have found a truly wonderful method whereby all the forms of nature must give up their numerical secrets and draw themselves through number alone. This margin being too mean for my purpose, the reader must look elsewhere for the new geometry of irregular forms discovered by Thomasina Coverley. Does it mean anything?
I don't know what it means. I don't know what it means except mathematically.
I meant mathematically.
It's an iterated algorithm.
What's that?
Well, it's... Jesus, it's an algorithm that's been iterated. How am I supposed to? The left-hand pages are graphs of what the numbers are doing on the right-hand pages, but all on different scales. Each graph is a small section of the previous one blown up. Like you'd blow up a detail of a photograph, then the detail of the detail, and so on forever. Or in her case, until she ran out of pages.
Is it difficult?
The maths isn't difficult. It's what you did in school. You have some x and y equation. Any value for x gives you a value for y. So you put a dot where it's right for both x and y. Then you take the next value for x, which gives you another value for y. And once you've done that a few times, you draw up the dots, and that's the graph of whatever your equation is.
And is that what she's doing?
No, not exactly. Not at all. What she's doing is, every time she works out a value for y, she's using that as the next value for x, and so on, like a feedback. She's feeding the solution back into the equation, and solving it again. Iteration, you see.
And that's surprising, is it?
Well, it is a bit. It's a technique I'm using on my grouse numbers. It hasn't been around for much longer than, well, call it 20 years.
So why was she doing it?
I have no idea. I thought you were doing the hermit.
I am. I still am, but Bernard, damn him. Thomasina's tutor turns out to have interesting connections. Bernard's been going through the library like a bloodhound. He found the portfolio in a cupboard.
There's lots of stuff lying around. Gus loves going through it. No old masters or anything.
The maths primer she was using belonged to the tutor. Look, his name's in the front cover.
Septimus Hodge.
Why were these preserved, do you think?
Why should there be a reason?
And the diagram, what does that mean?
How would I know?
Why are you cross?
I'm not cross. When your Thomasina was doing maths, it had been the same maths for a couple of thousand years. Classical. And for a century after Thomasina. Then maths left the real world behind, like modern art, really. Nature was classical. Maths was suddenly Picasso's, but now nature is having the last laugh. The freaky stuff is turning out to be the mathematics of the natural world.
This feedback thing.
For example...
So Thomasina couldn't
No,
have...
of course she bloody couldn't.
All right, you're not cross. Why'd you say you're doing what she's doing? What are you doing?
Actually, I'm doing it from the other end. She started with an equation and turned it into a graph. I've got a graph, real data, and I'm trying to find the equation which would give you the graph if you used it the way she used hers, iterated.
What for?
It's how you look at population changes in biology. Goldfish in a pond, say. This year there are X goldfish, next year there'll be Y goldfish. Some get born, some get eaten by herons, whatever. Nature manipulates the X and turns it into Y. Then Y goldfish is your stocking population for the following year, just like Thomasina. Your value for Y becomes your next value for X. The question is what is being done to X? What is the manipulation? Whatever it is, it can be written down as mathematics. It's called an algorithm.
It can't be the same every
The
year.
details change. You can't keep tabs on everything. It's not nature in a box, but it isn't necessary to know the details. They're all put together. It turns out populations obeying a mathematical rule.
The goldfish are.
Yes, no, the numbers. It's not about the behavior of the fish. It's about the behavior of the numbers. This thing works for any phenomenon which eats its own numbers. Measles epidemics, rainfall averages, cotton prices. It's a natural phenomenon in itself. Spooky.
Does it work for grouse?
I don't know. I mean, it does, undoubtedly, but it's hard to show. There's more noise with grouse.
Noise?
Distortions, interference, real data is messy. There's 1,000 acres of moorland that had grouse on. Always did till about 1930. But nobody counted the grouse. They shot them. So you count the grouse they shot, but burning the heather interferes. It improves the food supply. A good year for foxes interferes the other way. They eat the chicks. And then there's the weather. It's all very, very noisy. Very hard to spot the tune. Like a piano in the next room. It's playing your song, but unfortunately it's out of whack. Some of the strings are missing. The pianist is tone deaf and drunk. I mean, the noise, impossible.
So what do?
You start guessing what the tune might be. You try to pick it out of the noise. You start to put the notes that are missing or not quite the right notes, and bit by bit, dum-dee-dum, dear Valentine, dum-dee-dum-dum to you. Lost algorithm.
And then what?
I publish.
Right. Sorry, jolly good.
Well, that's the theory. Grouse are bastards compared to goldfish.
Why did you choose them?
The game books, my true inheritance. 200 years of real data on the plate.
Somebody wrote down everything that's sharp.
That's what a game book is. I'm only using it from 1870 when Butts and Beaters came in.
You mean the game books go back to Thomasina's time?
Oh yes, further. No, really, I promise you, not a schoolgirl living in a country house in Derbyshire in 18-something.
Then what was she doing?
She was just playing with the numbers. The truth is, she wasn't doing anything.
Well, she must have been doing something.
Doing nothing she
A
understood.
monkey at a typewriter.
Yes, well, piano.
A method whereby all the forms of nature must give up their numerical secrets and draw themselves through number alone. This feedback thing. Is it a way of making pictures of forms in nature? Just tell me if it is or it
To me,
isn't.
it is. Pictures of turbulence, growth, change, creation. It's not a way of drawing an elephant, for God's sake.
I'm sorry, so you couldn't draw a picture of this leaf by iterating a what?
Oh yes, you could do that.
Then tell me, honestly, I could kill
If
you!
you knew the algorithm and fed it back, say 10,000 times, each time there'd be a dot somewhere on the screen. You never know what to expect the next dot, but gradually you'd start to see the shape, because all the dots will be inside the shape of this leaf. It wouldn't be a leaf, it would be a mathematical object, but yes, the unpredictable and the predetermined unfold together to make everything the way it is. It's how nature creates itself on every scale, snowflake and snowstorm. It makes me so happy to be at the beginning again, knowing almost nothing. They were talking about an end of physics. Relativity and quantum look as if they're going to clean out the whole problem between them. A theory of everything. But they only covered the very big, the very small, the universe, elementary particles. The ordinary size stuff, which is our lives, the things people write poetry about. Clouds, daffodils, waterfalls, which happens in a cup of coffee when the cream goes in. These things are full of mystery. As mysterious to us as the heavens were to the Greeks. What better at predicting events at the edge of the galaxy, or inside the nucleus of an atom, than whether or not it'll rain on Auntie's garden party 3 Sundays from now? Because the problem turns out to be different. We can't even predict the next drip from a dripping tap once it gets irregular. Each drip sets up the conditions for the next. The smallest variation blows prediction apart. And the weather is unpredictable the same way it will always be unpredictable. When you push the numbers through the computer, you can see it on the screen. The future is disorder. A door like this has been cracked open 5 or 6 times since we got up on our hind legs. It's the best possible time to be alive, when almost everything you thought you knew is wrong.
The weather is fairly predictable in the Sahara.
The scale is different, but the graph goes up and down the same way. 6,000 years in the Sahara looks like 6 months in Manchester, I bet.
How much?
Everything you have to lose.
No.
Quite right. That's why there was corn in Egypt.
What's he playing?
I don't know. He makes it up.
Chloe called him genius.
That's what my mother calls him, only she means it. Last year, some expert had her digging around in the wrong place for months looking for something or other. The foundations of capability Brown's boathouse. Gus put her right first go.
Did he ever speak?
Oh yes, until he was 5. You've never asked about him. You get high marks here for good reading.
Yes, I know. I've always been given credit for my unconcern.
English bards and Scotch reviewers, a penciled superscription. Listen and kiss my cycle clips. O harbinger of sleep who missed the press and hoped his drone might thus escape redress, the wicked traitor, bard of arrows, couch, for his narcotic let my pencil vouch. You see, you have to turn over every page.
Is it in his handwriting?
Come on.
Obviously not.
That's what you want.
Proof.
Quite right. What are you talking about?
Proof. Proof. You'd have to be there, you silly bitch.
I say, you're speaking of my fiancé.
Especially when I have a present for you. Lady Croom writing to her husband. The brother married a Mrs. Chater. In other words, we can assume a widow.
I said he was dead. What year? 1810. Oh my God, 1810. Well done, Hannah. You're not going to tell me this is a different Mrs. Chater.
No, it's her all right. Note her Christian name.
Charity. Charity and deny what cannot be proven for charity's sake.
Don't kiss me.
She won't let anyone kiss her.
You see, they wrote it down, they put it on paper, they scribbled. It was their employment, their diversion. Paper was what they had, and there will be more. There is always
Such
more.
passion, first Valentine and now you, it's moving.
The aristocratic friend of the tutor, under the same roof as the poor sod whose book he savaged. The first thing he does is seduce Chater's wife. There is a duel. All is discovered. The Chater dead, Byron fled, and P.S. guess what? The widow married her ladyship's brother. And you honestly think that no one wrote a word? How could they not? It has disappeared from sight, but we can write it again.
You can, Bernard. I'm not going to take any credit. I haven't done anything.
That's very fair, very generous.
Prudent. Chater could have died of anything, anywhere.
But he fought a duel with Byron.
You haven't established it was fought. You haven't established it was Byron. For God's sake, Bernard, you haven't even established that Byron was here.
I'll tell you your problem. No guts.
Oh, really?
By which I mean a visceral belief in yourself, gut instinct, that part of you which requires no reason, that certainty with no back reference. Because time is reversed. Tick goes the universe until it recovers itself again. But it was enough. You were in there and you bloody know.
Are you talking about Lord Byron the poet?
No, you fucking idiot! We're talking about Lord Byron, the chartered accountant!
Oh, well, he was here all right. The poet.
How do you know?
He's in the game book. I think he shot a hare. I read through the whole lot once, so I had the mumps. Some quite interesting
Where's the
people.
book?
It's not one I'm using too early, of course. but
1809?
They've always been in the commode. Ask Chloe.
Chloe! Chloe!
My mother has lent him her bicycle. Lending one's bicycle is a form of safe sex, possibly as safe as there is. My mother's in a flutter about Bernard, and he's no fool either. He gave her a first edition of Horace Walpole. Now she's lent him her bicycle. Can I keep these for a while?
Yes, of course.
Yes, finished. Coming now. I'm trying to work out the diagram.
What I don't understand is why no one tried this before. I mean, it's not like relativity. You don't have to be Einstein.
You couldn't see to look before. The electronic calculator was what the telescope was for Galileo.
Calculator.
There wasn't enough time. There weren't enough pencils. This took her, I don't know how many days, and she hadn't even scratched the paintwork. Now she only has to press a button, the same button over and over. Iteration, a few minutes. And what I've done, in a couple of months, with only a pencil, the calculations would take me the rest of my life to do again. Thousands of pages, tens of thousands of pages, and so boring.
Do you
All right,
mean,
Gus, coming.
Do you mean that was the only problem then?
We're going to
Enough
get the dressing
time
up
and
box.
paper at the bottom. Val, is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying you'd have to have a reason for doing it. He hates people shouting.
I'm sorry. But anything else?
Well, the other thing is, you'd have to be insane.